Okay, I'll go ahead and call us to order. Today is January the 12th, 2026, and this is our regular monthly board meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight, and as always, we'll start out with our prayer and our pledge, and tonight we'll have Commissioner Ellis lead us in our prayer, and Commissioner Green will lead us in the pledge.
Well, Father, we come to you tonight for your guidance. We also want to praise you for all the blessings that you give us, most especially your son, but also McDowell County and what it means to each of us. We ask that for your guidance and how we make decisions that impact this county, help it grow in the best way possible, help support it the best way possible. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've had a chance to look at the meetings from the minutes from the prior meeting. Do I hear a motion we approve those?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the minutes as presented.
Got a motion and a second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do I hear a motion we approve the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any additions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. First tonight on our appointments under item A will be the McDowell Tech Partnership Opportunities with Dr. Kelley, the McDowell Community College President. So we welcome him to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. And I ask Ashley to help us out a little bit. I don't know if, Ashley, you have anything you want to share to set the stage?
Well, Dr. Kelley, as the board knows, and I have been discussing a couple of different partnership opportunities over the last couple of months. The two, he and I will maybe go back and forth. We'll talk about the first that I have in your memo is the public safety training complex. And I'll preface it and then turn it over really quick, but we have been working with McDowell Tech on a very, I'll say, minimal level on the public safety side, going back in many ways, minimal is the wrong word, but on this type topic for actual usage of our grounds. They have been using grounds for several decades for a firing range for their public safety law enforcement training programs. And so we have moved a prior range to the adjacent to our old landfill maybe about, 10 or 15 years ago, and it's in about the same condition. So had some recent discussions about improving that and adding some enhancements there. And then there's some discussions with our fire partners as well. So set the table just a little bit, but got a little bit more to talk about beyond that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ashley. I'll start with my experience and then go back in time and then go back forwards is kind of the way I'll discuss it. Is Sheriff Buchanan came to me and said, hey, can we talk about the firing range? We need to do some improvements. And then he brought up to me something that I was vaguely aware of, and that is, I believe, Representative Dudley Green worked with the county and with the school to find some money from the state to assist with public safety training. At the time, we were thinking two things. One was a driving track that would assist in a variety of different public safety areas. And then second, the action that we actually took with those monies was to hire an agency to help us develop a plan in the entire area, the firing range and fire safety training in the location that Ashley was mentioning. So Sheriff brought that back up to me and said, you know, hey, we were thinking driving track, that money's just sitting there, it's just sitting there, that's just sitting there. What if we try to repurpose that money? After contacting our General Assembly representatives, they said it's a broad definition of public safety training, so that $950,000 that's sitting there, you can use it for anything that you think is going to benefit the county. So after conversations with the sheriff, then we got with the Fire Safety Commission, and we dusted the dust off the original plan from around 2020 to say, hey, what was that plan look like? I had preliminary conversations with my board of trustees to talk about would they support further conversations with those two entities and with the county to talk about what could we do to make that a public safety training area that would benefit all and improve our services and training efforts. So what we'd like to do is begin official conversations to discuss a lease of that area. In order for us to build on that area, to use the $950,000, we have to go into a long-term lease of 20 years, or we won't be able to use the state money. So we need to start negotiating officially that contract, and then we can start working with the sheriff and the fire association and the details about what that construction would look like. So in general, we're looking at trying to get water up there, also expanding the firing range to meet the law enforcement needs, adding bathrooms and improving the classroom area, and then working with the fire association. We hope to be able to put a burn house up there for them as well. And so they're kicking in some money, the fire association is, and then we're using the $950,000 that we have, and then working on this contract with you. We may ask for some support of in-kind efforts from your area, but we're still trying to figure out exactly what the needs are. Be glad to ask. So basically the ask is for us to start working on an official contract for your all's, or a lease contract for your all's consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I'll say real quick that I appreciate the fact that JW and the College of Trustees are looking to partner, and they've brought in the sheriff, you brought in the fire commission,
Yes, sir.
and for this public safety training center. And so I wish you the best of luck, and I look forward to making a motion at the appropriate time to begin the process of a lease and how that will look.
That would be working with our county attorney to work out a 20-year lease. That's what is
Yes.
on the agenda?
Yes.
You gonna make that motion?
I'll make a motion to go ahead and begin the process as requested to have our county attorney and the college work on a lease that will be brought back to the board for approval.
Second.
Any discussion on that? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Kelley.
you very much, and of course, just a reminder that I'll need to take that to my board as well, because our board has to enter into all property agreements. The second item?
Sure. You want me to take the lead? on
Yes,
that
sir,
one?
sure.
So, testing my memory banks here. 15 to 20 years ago, Ford Miller, a local icon who's obviously since passed, he purchased what was the old Marion manufacturing property on Baldwin Avenue. He kept the industrial property for his uses, and that's been sold by his estate since. But the old credit union, the old office across the street, was donated at that time to the college for some sort of college use. And so the county commissioners at that time, the college, worked out an agreement where some job training, NC Works, it was the employment office at that time, were identified as the best use for that facility. And so that building came to the county's ownership because typically when we finance improvements to a property, we have to own it. And so county owned that building for, 15 years, I think. But the college and the state, meaning the employment office, were tenants for that entire time and kept up the building and had folks come in and learn skills, et cetera. The times have changed. NC Works is now the employment office. It became very evident in the past few years that not as many people were going there like they used to apply for jobs. A lot of people are using phones now. They're getting access to their computer for employment applications. And so not a lot of foot traffic was going on there. And Dr. Kelley and I had separately had spoken several months ago, maybe longer, about some long-term goals for their campus. And one of the things I remember him talking about was the programs that were being held by the college in that Baldwin Avenue building. There have been discussions about having that relocated to the campus. And so fast forward a little bit, we had some discussions maybe 4 or 5 months ago about trying to find some space for some of our functions, to move them, to make other space for other, so a lot of domino effect. And so I reached back out to Dr. Kelley and said, that discussion we had, are you talking 5 years from now, or when would that look like? And so had some discussions last fall, some of those involving NC Works, and they said they like where they are, but it is too big. And so they have had some discussions, and they have moved to the Miller complex, which they were very excited about. They're local businesses, there were people, there's a lot of foot traffic, and honestly, it's where they wanted to be. And so, and then again, I'm telling the whole story here. It sounded like the college can make space on their campus, and they were very excited. I won't speak for him. Very excited to have their staff all on campus there, which would leave that building available for county usage. And so, as I've talked to you before, in some updates, some of the things we're looking at that could fit in that building that would better serve the community, as well as provide some opportunity for repurposing some of our other spaces. We've looked at a cooperative extension, which was kind of the genesis of the entire discussion, as well as our soil and water office, who is a separate agency from cooperative extension, but partners with them greatly. And so, assuming for a second those two offices and departments moved over to Baldwin, that would free up some space in our services building, for example, to move some county departments there, to consolidate. I've talked about some DSS functions with you. We're kind of spread out, and we'd like to have fewer rooftops for that department specifically, and that would put them under 2 instead of 3, and again, ultimately be under 1 is the goal, but a long way out. So had a lot of those discussions with Dr. Kelley, and so I think tonight we're asking for your consent to work on a no-cost lease with the college, and his board is agreeable to that if you are.
Did I misunderstand that the county at one time owned that building?
We did, primarily for the purposes of the financing. And so once the debt was paid off, the agreement was that the building would return back to the college.
Gotcha.
So it was ours, but not ours at the same time, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Just want to make sure when that transfer was done.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve moving forward with the lease to come back to the board.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? I think it would be a good fit for the cooperative extension office, and
Good classroom space.
that would be really good, and they definitely need it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks
very
again. Next on the agenda is item B, which is the Youth League agreement renewals, and we have Mr. Aikman Kazee with Parks and Recreation Director here tonight with us. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Excuse my voice, I've got this crud, so I'm gonna power through this a little bit. But tonight I have 2 memorandums of understanding. The first one is McDowell County Little League. McDowell County Little League merged with McDowell County in 2022, and it became an overnight success for this county. Registration breaks records on an annual basis, and it's quickly become one of the largest leagues in this district and in the state of North Carolina. By the grace of God, this merger has been nothing short of a blessing, thanks to the Parks and Recreation staff, the Little League board, and the countless volunteers that make it happen. Tonight, I brought you an updated copy of the Memorandum of Understanding that was signed by Little League and the county in 2022. We wish to continue this amazing partnership with the board into the future with updates to this agreement. Updates to this memorandum include clearly outlined responsibilities, Parks and Recreation and the Little League and McDowell Little League. These responsibilities have been in place since the merger, but were not clearly written or fleshed out in writing. So this agreement also expresses in writing that McDowell County Little League will give McDowell County access to all of the league's documentation, including financial statements. The MOU also removes items with partners who are no longer associated with the Little League board. I also bring a memorandum of understanding for our McDowell County Youth Football League. Upon revising the MOU for our Little League, I discovered that we did not have one in place for our Youth Football League. Like our Little League, McDowell County Youth Football League has experienced growth each year since we've been a part of it in 2021. The MCYFL board has been a key driver in this growth and a critical partner behind our youth program and the Youth Football League. The MOU, like the one in place with Little League, outlines responsibilities for both Parks and Recreation and the MCYFL board, and these responsibilities have already been in place for quite some time, and it's just putting it in writing. This will also signal a shift for MCYFL to be able to handle the entire registration process, much like we do with Little League currently. And also circling back to our McDowell County Little League, there's potential for a change of charter to Babe Ruth from Little League. If this charter does change, the makeup of the league and the operations of the league would remain the same. It would be the same individuals who currently make our youth baseball and softball offerings the best in Western North Carolina, and that's not going to change. We're going to make sure we continue to offer the greatest program for the youth of our county.
Aikman, so there's a possibility of moving to or associating with Babe Ruth, correct?
Correct. The Little League board has been in talks with Little League International, and if there's some issues that they can't move past, then that board would transition to a Babe Ruth potentially.
Okay. So a motion would be, since you got the agreement, just to make this agreement to where it would also apply, nothing's changing within the agreement other than a possibility of the name.
Correct.
The Babe Ruth. Okay. I'll make a motion that we go ahead. Are you ready, Mr. Chairman, for a motion?
Yeah, I'm
I
ready.
don't get bored.
If everybody else is.
I'm good.
You good? Okay. I will make a motion that we enter into the agreement with either McDowell Little League, with Little League in McDowell County, or McDowell County and Babe Ruth, whichever group your board of directors so wishes to associate with, because we understand that Little League's saying you cannot charge, and the admission you've been charging that pays for the jerseys and the umpires and all that. They're saying you can't charge it now, right?
Correct.
Babe Ruth says you can.
Babe Ruth says you can. Little League told us that we just have to raise registration costs.
And so if you go right now, the registration cost is $50, correct?
60. Little League
60.
is $60. Yes.
So we go to what, 100, 110?
The Little League board estimated that it'd be around 110 per child.
So if you got a family of 4 that has 4 kids playing Little League, you know, that's a big chunk to
Yes.
play.
Which is why that this is on the table for us, because we're going to make sure that our youth leagues are affordable for everybody in this
Right.
county.
And y'all done a tremendous job, by the way, too.
Thank you, thank you.
That would cause a lot of kids to not be able to play.
Correct.
If
The
they-
president of Little League estimated they lose half of their participation levels.
We were under the Babe Ruth umbrella for many years anyway, prior to that Little League, and I don't think we ever had any problems before with them.
And
So-
the Little- is your board, or well, does the Little League board directors, they're in favor also, if it doesn't work out with Little League, to proceed with Babe Ruth?
Yes, that's correct.
And your staff is too?
Yes. We're fully behind giving the kids of this county the best.
Okay.
Did we have a second?
Best
No,
option.
we did not.
We did not. We had a motion, no second.
Yep.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that motion? Any other discussion first?
No, you get your second, then get your
Yeah,
second.
any other, okay.
I had asked Mr. Wooten earlier today about item number 8, where it talks about the Little League agrees that all money collected from games be surrendered to Parks and Rec. I would just like to see the wording in there on the time frame on when that is to be turned in, and just not leave that open, but
I'll amend that motion to include the addition by Commissioner Green.
I think right now, is that surrendered at the end of the season?
Yeah.
Correct.
just like to see that wording in there.
Sure. If I may ask, your motion seems specific to baseball. Are you including football, that agreement as well?
That's a different group, but
Yes, the
I would-
MCYFL group is different from.
it's different, so I
Say
did that
that.
motion just for this first.
Understood.
Okay. With that, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Now, do you need a motion for
Football,
football? I'll make that motion.
second.
Got a motion second, any discussion on that? Not all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Good. All right, now we'll move along to item C, which would be the U.S. Forest Service update, and we have Mr. Nick Larson here with us tonight. So, Nick, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, good evening, guys. It's been a little while since I've been here, so wanted to just touch base and give you a little state of affairs of what's happening on the National Forest, especially in light of Helene recovery and resilience. So I'm not going to belabor the damage of Helene, but I want to throw out a couple of numbers just for context of what we're dealing with. Across the Pisgah and the Nantahala National Forest, in our open roads, we've discovered about 48 bridges across the area that are damaged or destroyed. That's just within our open road system. We're still finding and cataloging all the damage to our closed roads that are there. We've got 885 miles of road that have been damaged. About 30% of that road damage is expected to be complete reconstruction. 850 miles of trail that's been damaged. And as far as the state of affair for the actual forest itself, about 190,000 acres of forest, timber, and trees have been damaged. For context, the entire Grandfather Ranger District is about 200,000 acres. So, as all of us in this room have lived through, there's a huge amount of damage that's out there in the National Forest, huge amount of damage in our communities, and we're making really, really good progress in recovering that. As of right now, 93% of our open roads and trails are reopened. So that's those roads that pre-Helene were open to the general public and trails that were open. Those are all back open and running and working. Some of those are temporary repairs, so we're going to continue to see, larger culverts, bridge replacements, trails to be actually stabilized and put back in place. All of the open roads that we've been able to get to across the entire National Forest or across the entire Grandfather Ranger District, which is about 150 miles of road, have received 6 inches of fresh gravel. All the ditches have been graded, all the ditches have been pulled, the roads have been graded, and the culverts have been dug. For the first time in my 22-year career at the National Forest, I've had people call our office and compliment the condition of the roads, right? So super excited about that. So our open roads that you're able to get down are in really good shape, and they're very resilient right now, at least for the basic maintenance repairs. If a road is closed on the National Forest right now, that's no joke. There's a massive hazard behind that gate. I just like to remind people that, oftentimes we have road closures that are for resource damage or anything like that. Right now, all of our road closures or trail closures that we have are genuinely because of significant hazards. So just being mindful of that as folks are out. As far as progress on those bridges that we're working on, we are just about done with the Jarrett's Creek Bridge. If y'all know going up Curtis Creek, the bridge over Curtis Creek that goes out Jarrett's Creek, the major construction for that is done. We're finalizing the punch list and anticipating that to be open probably in the next week or two. Now that that road is open, we can start repairs on the Gateway Trailhead itself. Again, you're gonna see a temporary opening of that where we're gonna make it so that people can get back to the restrooms, get to that trailhead, but the entire parking lot is not gonna be open for a couple of weeks. We're working with partner groups to get that open, or a couple of months, excuse me. But we'll get some of those facilities up and running. We also have installed a bridge up at Sugar Cove, getting out to some private residents there. So we're gonna continue to be repairing probably on this district 3 to 4 bridges per year until we're all caught up. If you guys have been up to the Linville Gorge recently, all of our trailheads up there have had a facelift. They've got new gravel in place. They've got new rails in place to identify where the trailheads are. The brush has been removed. Those trailheads have been really refreshed and in really good shape. There's a new restroom at Wiseman's View, so all of those are in real good shape. We're working with the National Park Service right now to provide alternative access to Linville Falls. As you guys know, the visitor center on the Park Service side is completely gone, and that'll be a couple of years until it's back up and running. So this season, we've had some temporary things in place with the Park Service, and we're going to continue that partnership probably for the next 3 to 4 years until those final constructions on the National Park Service can be done. So we're excited about being able to help our neighbors there. We have a contract that started about 2 weeks ago to get Curtis Creek back up and operational. At face value, if anybody had been up to Curtis Creek, it didn't look too bad, but then as we started getting into the guts, as I'm sure everybody had found out, there's a lot more damage than it seemed. So we're on target for Curtis Creek to be open up this April, which is super exciting to have that in place. That same contract is rebuilding the restrooms, the Old Fort picnic area, and getting that area repaved, as it's been operating much like a trailhead for Katsuma and the other trails.
Is there any chance that, since you're on that area right now, is there any chance that that road up Sugar Cove would ever be opened up again to Curtis Creek?
Not likely, not with our current direction. The road, you're talking about the road that goes across the top of Mackey Mountain? Yeah, the area between Sugar Cove and Curtis Creek has been designated as an inventoried roadless area. Now,
okay.
The current administration is looking at repealing and having some rule changing to roadless, but that hasn't happened yet, and to be quite frank, I have no idea what the implications of that rule change would be to things like that. But as of this snapshot where we are right now, that area is a roadless area, so I can't reestablish that road.
Okay.
But the area is still really heavily used. I mean, as you guys know, it's a super important access point for hunters, and especially bear hunters.
Yeah.
What else we got? Folks won't see this as much, but I'm super excited about it. We are starting construction on a seed cooler and a tree cooler at Woodlawn Work Center. This is like a giant refrigerator that holds all of our tiny trees as we get ready to plant them. We've got about 300 acres of forest that are getting replanted this year, predominantly with pitch pine. And as we have this new cooler back up and operating, and as we have some of the debris removal happening across the forest, we'll have more acreage as years go on. So we should anticipate in 2027 and 2028 to have more than 300 acres and more than just pitch pine getting planted. We have 2 salvage timber sales happening on the district right now. Only one of those is active, going out Lime Kiln Road above the fish hatchery area, and then on the other side of 221 corridor in Bald Mountain area and Graveyard Fields, we have some salvage going. I would anticipate probably for the next 4 to 5 years, we're going to continue to have some semblance of debris removal around our road systems and our fire lines and just all those areas, so that we can get back in a position where we're serving our communities of reducing those wildfire risks and being prepared when we have wildfires. So the timber part of that is just the first leg. As we continue on, we're going to continue to work to remove the hazardous fuels and debris that's going to be a full-time job for a little while. The other real exciting stuff that we've got going is in the past several months, we've been able to put some really large agreements in place with many of our conservation partners. So we have worked with the Wildlife Resources Commission. As all of you guys know, the National Forest is embedded with state game lands. So we're working directly with the commission to improve hunter access or restore hunter access, work towards the resilience, and really get some of that habitat back up and moving. We're also working with county law enforcement. So all of our counties that we touch on the Grandfather District and the Pisgah have received some support for just the changes in access and the changes in different use dynamics that are happening. The Nature Conservancy we have a large agreement with. You guys know G5 and Camp Greer has been a huge partner for us for trail access, and we're working directly with them. Before I forget, the Nature Conservancy and G5 has started some of their hiring, so we're seeing more people working in conservation in those 2 organizations right now. Also working with Trout Unlimited, the North Carolina Student Conservation Corps, the National Forest Foundation, our local RC&Ds. I'm going to go real quick on the rest of them, but we've got a lot of partners that we're working with. The Foothills Conservancy, Wild South, Northwestern North Carolina Mountain Bike Alliance, and the Southern Appalachian Wilderness Stewards. So a lot of folks interested in conservation are coming together to kind of help us get the forest back in place, not only for that conservation interest, but also because of the importance of our outdoor economies. Like, there's a clear connection in everybody's mind of why these places are special and important, not just for us that live here, but for our economies that are dependent on it. The other exciting work that we're doing, certainly this year, and we've done some already, is some of our stream surveys to start looking at what our fish habitats look like and what kind of work we need to do to stabilize that or improve those habitats. And then the big one that I'll end on is wildfire response. And I'm sure, as you guys know, we're in it for the long haul over the next several years, that our wildfire response and our wildfire activity across Western North Carolina is really expected to be much higher as we have all this debris. For the past 2 years, the National Forest has really stepped up and helped provide us locally with a huge amount of resources. This fall, we've had between 60 and about 90 firefighters on top of our additional staff from all over the country coming to help us. Last spring, in our more active wildfire season, we've had upwards of 200 firefighters on a given day to help to be here and be prepared, so that when we do have a wildfire, as we anticipate we will, whether it's down power lines or just people burning brush or whatever that might be, that we've got all the resources to be able to hit that hard, suppress it as quickly as we can, and be successful there, that we're not having major impacts on people and not further damaging properties. That is what I have on my notes, and I just wanted to kind of throw that stuff out there as ticklers for anything that you guys might be interested in talking about, anything that you might want me to speak further to or come back and talk with you or work with Ashley on. Happy to any way I can.
Well, the trails and the roads are, very important to everyone here and everyone in this area. They are used by most everyone. We're very excited to see those opening back up. And one other question, is the grandfather district still the most visited park in the US?
The Nantahala and the Pisgah National Forest are the most visited national forest in the country, except if you calculate ski slopes out west. There's a couple of forests, I think the Apache Sitgraves, because of ski slopes and ticketing and stuff like that, they beat us, and I count that as a technicality. We're usually looking at about 8 million visitors.
It's still pretty impressive.
Which is, yes sir, incredibly busy forest.
You mentioned your bridge repair. Just for an example, the bridge at Sugar Cove. Is that a temporary bridge or is that permanent?
That is a temporary bridge at Sugar Cove, so we'll be coming through and having a permanent bridge out there.
Okay, so that's what you're doing.
Yep. Okay. At Jarrett's Creek, that is a permanent bridge. Yeah.
Nick, with the threat of wildfires, you mentioned that. I know y'all probably got data on this. How many trees went down, probably percentage-wise, in the district?
So the rough numbers that I have is across the entire forest is about 190,000 acres were impacted. If we look at our entire landscape, the really rough number that we've been saying for the grandfather district is about 70% of that area. The number of trees, I don't know. That's like in the billions or something. I'd have a hard time calculating that.
70% was affected.
70% of the 200,000 acres that we've got here, and across the landscape of the grandfather district, the center of that damage really and truly is in McDowell County. As you start heading into Burke County and into Caldwell County and even up into Avery, not to say that they weren't very, very significantly impacted, but a lot of that has been here.
Anyone else have anything?
Thank you, Nick.
Yep.
Thank you, Nick. That was a good report.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along now to item D, which is the Charlotte Interbasin transfer update. We have Anthony Starr, WPCOG Executive Director, here with us tonight, so we welcome you to the podium, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate you having me this evening, and it's a pleasure to join you. And thank you for your partnership on this important issue. When I spoke with Mr. Wooten, I just thought we would come by and provide an overview of you aware, some new information we've gathered, and kind of an update on this. So I'll go through a few things. One is a little bit about the background of what interbasin transfers are, or as IBTs as we call them, the Catawba River Basin, Charlotte Water's request and the impacts, some alternatives, and the coalition, as well as the legislative study. So before I delve too far into this, let me explain for the public's benefit what an interbasin transfer is, or IBT. So it's when water is removed from one river basin, transported across a ridge line, as you see in the diagram on the screen, and then it's discharged into a different river basin and not returned. We don't count it as an IBT if the water moves across the ridge line but then is brought back to the original river basin through the wastewater treatment process. It's only the water that isn't returned. So IBTs can be harmful to the jurisdiction losing water and beneficial to those receiving it, of course. And we've looked at a great deal of amount of information, and what the experts say is basically, in a number of ways, there are economic and environmental impacts that are negative to the source basin, such as the Catawba River in this case. So the current IBTs in the Catawba River Basin, of which McDowell is the headwaters, part of the headwaters for that. Charlotte Water has an IBT of 33 million gallons per day. That was issued in 2002, a certificate. Concord Kannapolis has another 20 million gallons, of which 10 comes from the Catawba and 10 comes from the Yadkin. And then Mooresville has a 9.5 million that was grandfathered in as well. This is a map that shows the river basins in North Carolina and how they regulate those interbasin transfers, if you will. You'll note that the Catawba River is actually one of the smaller river basins in North Carolina by land area. About the Catawba River, it is the first river in the U.S. completely planned and developed for electricity production. And it has 11 different reservoirs, about 1,800 miles of shoreline, and about 3.7 billion gallons of water flowing each day. But we only have storage of about 7% of our rainfall in our reservoirs, like Lake James. It contributes to a lot of Duke Energy's energy production, in fact 20%, but it is also the most densely populated river basin in North Carolina. And there's quite a few visitors, a number of different counties that it serves. About 18 different public water systems in North and South Carolina are served by it. At the end of the day, what we have to recognize is the Catawba River is a threatened river. In fact, it's been named as the most endangered river in America twice in the last couple of decades. It's mostly due to the unprecedented demand for clean water and the exponential population growth of the Charlotte metro area. And why is that a threat? Well, if you look at the drought conditions, that's when this really crunches for us. And so the graph on your screen here is the U.S. Drought Monitor Index. And we took that data all the way back to 1998 until last year. And the way to read this chart is the higher the bars on the chart, the greater percentage of North Carolina is in drought. And the darker the color, the more severe the drought. So we had two really severe droughts that impacted North Carolina as well as our area. 1998 to 2002 drought and the 07 to 09 drought. Why does that become important? Well, if you think of our reservoirs as the water supply for us, and you have a water treatment plant that sits up on the hillside nearby somewhere, and it pumps the water out of the reservoir. That blue line represents the normal elevation of our lakes, and the red line represents the critical elevation where the intake is just below that level. Once in severe droughts or exceptional droughts, if that water line drops too low and too close to that intake, we're not going to be able to have our water system function because it will start cavitating. It won't be able to pull water into the intake any longer. Now, the 98 to 2002 drought was the largest deficit of rainfall on record at that time. And you can see here in our counties in the far west and the western Piedmont in pink, those are stream flow measurements. Basically, the way to read that is the pink area was the hardest hit during that 98 to 2002 drought. And then again, in the 07-09 drought was the most severe drought ever recorded in history for North Carolina. Now, we're all approaching 20 years now, over 20 years since that happened. And so where Hickory at that time was trying to reduce its water intake by 20%, we saw lake levels drop by 8 to 10 feet, and Lake Norman dropped to just 3.1 feet above the cooling intake for the nuclear power plant. That's kind of important. Meanwhile, Charlotte continued pulling water and loses more than 19% of every gallon it took in. That equates to about 23 million gallons per day through water loss. Now, Charlotte might say, well, IBTs aren't that big a deal, and they're just normal part of doing business, and this isn't that significant. Well, if you look at Charlotte's IBT and its conservation targets, during extreme droughts, it has a goal of 10 to 20% of its water use reduction, right? It uses about 125 million gallons per day, so that equates to about 12.5 to 25 million gallons per day that it hopes to conserve during extreme droughts. The potential Charlotte IBT is 63 million gallons per day. So Charlotte is proposing to transfer 2.5 to 5 times more water than it hopes to conserve during extreme droughts. Now, either this IBT is significant in the amount of water they're transferring, or their water conservation targets are not adequate. So a little bit about Charlotte's request. So it has an approval, as I mentioned, for 33 million gallons per day. It was originally projected to go to the 2030. They're requesting another 30 million gallons now, and that will serve, if you look at the map on the right there, that's a map they provided. The purple line is the ridge line. That water to the east or to the right flows in a different river basin, the Rocky and Yadkin. You can see they pull the water out of the Catawba River, and there's 2 red dots, both on Lake Norman and Mountain Island Lake, and then they treat it at the blue squares. And basically, when you calculate the amount of water that they want to increase, they want to put basically the equivalent of another 300,000 people in eastern Mecklenburg County there on that third of the county. And so that has consequences for all of us. And you can see the population growth that is facilitating, and you can see on the eastern side of Mecklenburg, the county east of Mecklenburg, it's just going to also amplify the growth that occurs there and the problems that come along that way. Now, many of our local governments that produce water in the Catawba River Basin belong to a group called the Catawba Water Management Group, and that was formed a number of years ago for all the utility entities to manage the resources and collaborate and cooperate on the Catawba River, both in North and South Carolina, where it turns into the Wateree River as well. And they did a water supply plan that they're in the process of updating, but it was last officially adopted in 2014. And in that study, it said that the safe yield for many of the reservoirs will be exhausted by mid-century. Now, that will make continued population economic growth beyond that point unsustainable. I suspect that Charlotte's growth rates have been faster than what that study indicated, so that day may come even sooner. At the same time, we have looked at the river levels and the flows in the Catawba River going back to the 1960s. And what this chart shows you is that the amount of water available in the Catawba River is actually declining. It's not actually staying level, it's not increasing, it's declining. So Charlotte wants to transfer more water out of the basin while at the same time the flow is decreasing. Now, the thing I would make why that's important for everyone, including those of us upstream, is the lower the flows, the more concentrated the pollutants are, and the more that increases the treatment cost for our utility systems, which makes our water rates go higher. And so that will limit our ability to keep expanding our water treatment plants at some point. At the same time, water rates in Charlotte are more affordable as a percentage of median household income than 90% of other utilities. So Charlotte customers pay less than the same amount of water. At the same time, Charlotte loses about 19% of its water through water loss. You can see on this chart here, the average median affordability is that black dot. in the state. The blue dot is the area in our 5-county coalition, and then the orange dot is Charlotte water's affordability. The bottom line, the interbasin transfer means cheaper water for Charlotte, but more expensive water for everyone else in the basin. Now, we're also concerned about the legal implications of this. The more we approve these large IBTs, the more precedent it sets, the more this is going to keep happening, and the more we will exhaust our resources that we have. So let's take a look at the alternatives that Charlotte Water has. So right now, they want to take water from the Catawba River and discharge it in the Yadkin Rocky River Basin. And that's maximum harm to other Catawba River Basin communities, but maximum benefit to Charlotte. Now, it has two alternatives, primary alternatives. It can, to this IBT, it can take water from the Yadkin River Basin. Maybe they build a plant, maybe they purchase water from another utility, or they can return the water back to the Catawba River Basin through a wastewater discharge that goes into a stream that flows into the Catawba River. Either one of those options work because the returns don't count against IBTs. Now, Charlotte has previously looked at this, the cost of this, and back in 2001, they estimated the cost of either discharging the water back to the Catawba River Basin or producing a new raw water source from the Yadkin at either $16 million or $82 million to do that. Now, they have now published updated numbers. Both options are now over $800 million each. So that's a 10 to 50 times increase over the last 20 years. And we're not saying that we accept their cost estimates at this point, but for argument's sake, let's assume that what they're estimating is true. Consider that Charlotte Water has an annual budget of $651 million. Now, those $800 million options seem really large, but when you look at the fact that they have a $651 million budget and the fact that they plan to spend $2.3 billion in projects over the next 5 years, it makes it affordable for Charlotte to do the right thing. Avoiding an IBT only requires about a 12% increase in their capital budget over the next 15 years to eliminate their IBT. So Charlotte has not invested in alternative water source projects in this century either. They have backed a 1-cent sales tax increase for transit infrastructure. They've also received $141 million in federal pandemic funding that could be used for water and sewer, but they did not use it for water and sewer. Bottom line, Charlotte pays less for water. It received federal funds for water infrastructure, but didn't use it for that purpose. And they support a tax increase for other non-water infrastructure. They have the means, not just the desire, to pursue alternatives for water. So we formed this Catawba River Coalition, of which McDowell's part of, and we're grateful for your partnership on that, at the request of our local governments, and the Western Piedmont Council of Governments is serving as the coordinating entity. What will come next is at some point down the road, the Environmental Management Commission, which decides whether or not to approve these certificates, will have a hearing on Charlotte's environmental impact statement once it prepares that. That could occur at some point later this year or 27, but we don't know that yet. Charlotte hasn't been super forthcoming on its timing yet. Some key points that we're putting out there as it relates to our coalition is that our region's future growth could be limited because of these large IBTs. We're not opposed to Charlotte growing. We just don't want that growth to occur at our expense. And the limited resources of the Catawba River should not be used to subsidize huge growth outside the river basin. Charlotte can implement and should implement policies and infrastructure improvements to avoid these IBTs, and IBTs can make the impacts of severe droughts worse for other communities along the Catawba River. At some point, we're also concerned that the more we have these IBTs, at some point some state or federal regulatory agency is going to tell our local governments that, hey, you can't withdraw any more water out of the Catawba River because there's not a sufficient supply, and we will get to that, whatever that limit is, we're going to get to that much sooner by having these large IBTs. Now, there's a legislative study. As a result of legislation we were successful in getting passed last year, House Bill H 850, it imposed a 2-year moratorium on large IBTs exceeding, or expansions exceeding 15 million gallons per day. It also directed the collaboratory at UNC Chapel Hill to study the issue and provide recommendations, and it's in the early stages. It has to look at the current statutory process for approving these water transfers and also provide any recommendations for revising that process as needed. Our group is advocating for two key things as part of that study. One is that a shot clock for large IBT transfers, interbasin transfers, be temporary and time limited. You may need it because you have a growth spurt, but you're on a shot clock of say 15 or 20 years, and then you can build the infrastructure in that time frame to eliminate your IBT. We think that's a reasonable approach. Second, we ask for a drought mitigation fund for impacted communities to use if an IBT is approved within that basin. What would you use that for? Well, it might mean lowering your water intakes in a lake, or it might mean providing an interconnection between between utility systems in an emergencies. So what we're asking is our coalition members to continue engaging with our legislators and point to your advocacy and your support for limiting IBTs. We'll be sending out some letters to our coalition members like you to engage the UNC Collaboratory with your local perspective. And I'm really not overstating this when I say the next 50 years of growth in our region will be determined by this issue. And so we need to keep it in the forefronts of everyone's mind. When we look at this data and all the information and you look at the droughts, really Lake James is our Alamo. If you look at the way Duke Energy manages it, it's the last line of defense during severe droughts. And we came close to really having to really pull down Lake James in the 07-09 drought. And if that happens, not just will we be in trouble downstream, it'll be the whole river system will be in dire circumstances in an exceptional drought. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
I got a question on the other counties that are in the coalition.
Yes, sir.
Are they in 100% with fighting these?
Yes, absolutely. The 5 counties,
Everybody.
Alexander, Burke, Caldwell, Catawba, and McDowell counties are all lined up together. Now, the counties in South Carolina are looking and monitoring the issue. They haven't officially joined our coalition. There's some legal reasons behind that, because if one state sues another, then it goes straight to the Supreme Court under the U.S. Constitution. So I understand why they're kind of waiting to see what North Carolina does before they jump into this.
And they did sue during the last IBT, correct?
They did, yes, they did, sir, yes.
Do we need to pressure our legislators more?
I think the way I would frame that is just keep it in front of them and mention it to them. Say, hey, thank you for passing that bill last year and looking at this issue. It's important to us. Let's make sure we get the right thing accomplished next year. That moratorium will stay in place until March of 27, and that study will be completed in January of 27. I meant to mention that. So there'll be a window there when the moratorium's in place and the study's complete. And then so in early 27, that's when we really need to get the legislation passed to fix this issue.
Does anyone else have anything? I'm good. Thanks, sir.
Thank you for having me. Have a good evening.
Moving along now to old business. Item A under old business will be the water system project update and approvals. Mr. Wooten.
Speaking of water, really quick on some updates on our projects starting in the Nebo community. Again, the East End project is almost the last project for right now where we have active construction. This is around NC 126, the Lake Club area. Very complex project, as I've talked about. And as far as I understand from our staff, we're still on track. For April completion, it might start to push out a little bit, just based on weather delays and, again, complexity. Nebo Phase 2A and 2B are still under construction just a little bit. It's really in the mop-up stages for that project. Spoke with our engineer on a small project around Exit 90. This is designed to support several businesses around that interchange. We're waiting on some environmental reviews. This is Appalachian Regional Commission funding that is going through the state of North Carolina, and it is very slow and complex. And so we're working with Foothills Regional on that one. And then wrapping up in Nebo, I do have an action item for Phase 3. We do have a bid tabulation that is attached. So what I would ask is that you, in your motion, if you're so inclined, is that you make a motion to receive the bids into the minutes, and then you award the bid to Hyatt Pipeline at $1,338,550. And I will note for the record that this is the last project that will be authorized under state funding that, let's see, federal funding that was channeled through the state. It's the last project. So I ask that be in the form of a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve the Phase 3 bids, include them in the minutes, approve the resolutions, and the low bid to Hyatt Pipeline at the stated amount.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Carter. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wooten.
Thank you. Under the item heading under the Providence, the West Marion Elementary area, again, not much of a change from last month. We still have the 90% plans under staff review, which is pretty much wrapped up. And as I've talked about, you authorized several months ago an application for additional funding that would do work on Marlow Road and Zion Hill Road. We will know, I believe, by the time of our next nightly meeting, the results of that. They meet, I believe, February 9th, the State Water Infrastructure Authority. And I did talk last month that the City of Marion has asked for our patients' understanding and cooperation as they work to identify essentially their water treatment capacity. And so they've had some recent meetings and discussions with us to make sure that what they believe they can treat and sell to us, that they actually can do. So they're going to hopefully initiate asset inventory and assessment study very soon that will help them provide more information. And speaking of, we have our own AIA project, again, asset inventory and assessment, for primarily the Nebo system since it exists. We have selected an engineer, and McGill Associates is working on that right now. We had a meeting with them Thursday on some mapping, which is one of the first steps. We did receive notification about 2 weeks ago from the state. They were untimely in their submittal of award documents to us, and so they're very busy right now. So they did send the award package to us, and I do have that in your packet. There's a resolution that would authorize the formal receipt of the funding and the moving forward with the project.
Remind me, and I guess I've just forgot, but the West Marion project,
Sir.
I know what our ultimate goal is, to include Zion Hill and make the loop, but where do we stand on our funding for just getting it to the school?
Our engineers have told us they believe we have enough funding from the state appropriation, Appalachian Regional Commission, and as well as the school system to get to the school.
Okay.
And then in the direction that's from the board was to do that and to apply for other funding for the rest of it. And so that's the charge. Gotcha. And so once we get through, I believe, knock on wood, next month, there's still the city question that's been raised, but beyond that, we're waiting on a few more environmental documents with Foothills Regional and our engineer. But after that, again, absent the city, we would be ready to proceed towards bidding at that point.
We should know, what, in February on the extension to complete that loop? Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir. I think February 9th is that meeting. So the idea, the timing with the environmental study and that grant application, if we don't get it, then we know we can reapply later. But if we were to get that for that, completing that loop, the idea would then be to package it all together because the timing would work out very well.
In discussions with the city, not just with West Marion, but we also need to remember the Nebo area with the potential business out there. To make sure we have capacity issues and what is the maximum daily water capacity that could be out there as well. So when you're talking with them, make sure you get the West Marion plus.
And Mr. Ellis and the board, a lot of the discussion on determining what that capacity is it's not necessarily centered on the eastern.
Correct.
But that might be part of the push to help find some of the grant funding to pay for the study. So
Correct.
it's a great connection. We need to know what we need to know.
We need to know the capacity of Marion water supply.
Absolutely. And
That's
if they can't provide for whatever reason, we
That's
need to be looking
basically
at
the
other
first step
options.
We have to know.
That's right.
Our first hurdle we have to
That's
face.
right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wooten.
And I do have an action item to receive that grant, approve the resolution.
So move that we receive the grant.
Second.
And resolution.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much. Next, under new business, we go to item A, which will be the opioid settlement fund and availability. Mr. Wooten?
Thank you. Just as a reminder to you all and a reminder for the public and maybe new information perhaps, the county joined a multi-jurisdictional lawsuit primarily oriented against the distributors and eventually manufacturers and eventually retailers as well for companies that participated in the opioid epidemic. Essentially, the idea behind that was that companies knew they were more addictive than they were advertising, and this information was being withheld, and it was not disclosed properly, and so it led people to become very addicted and cause many overdoses for people that sometimes were taking painkillers after surgeries and different things. And so again, we've been part of that litigation for, gosh, maybe 7 or 8 years. And that has been in a settlement stage for about 3 or 4 years. And at that time, you approved a memorandum of agreement with NC Department of Justice, as well as the entities that were being targeted, sued. And the idea was that McDowell and the other 99 counties, as well as a number of municipalities, were a party to that agreement. And to receive the funds, you had to participate in the agreement and then agree that you would then spend the settlement funds on certain purposes, primarily oriented towards addiction treatment, working very specifically with people that had been, again, addicted in the past, somewhat on the prevention side, in very scientific and specific ways. And so we have brought 2 different sets of recommendations to you over the past 3 years. And I provided the most recent list just for your reminder information. And we had some discussions about a month or so ago that things seemed to be going well with the external recipients of those funds. And we talked about that at that time with you, that every time a dollar goes out of this funding to an external agency, they have to meet the same requirements that we do. We're holding them to it. If they don't, they have to pay the money back, or and they're not going to probably get it in the future. And so every agency, especially those listed in your packet, have done really well to report to us that they are doing their best to make an impact. And so as we look forward for releasing a new opportunity, as I indicated in your memo, we still would like to make funding available to the public, these agencies that are listed and maybe that aren't listed, to be able to apply for it, as long as they meet the criteria that we have to meet. But one of the things we would like to change to give an opportunity for these agencies to demonstrate their abilities and also have a little bit more of a sustainable project. We have, this past 2 rounds, we've had a 1-year performance period. So you will get the funding hopefully in July, quarterly payment, and then you had June until June to spend it. Just like a fiscal year for us, and after June, we've had a couple that hadn't spent it all, and we worked out secondary agreements with them, but primarily it's 1 year, and it can be hard as a grant recipient ourselves here. It can be hard to do good things in 1 year. So what we would like to recommend is that we have an option for agencies that are recommended for funding, that we could go up to 3 years for performance. And I had a question earlier, well, what if they're not doing what they said they would do, or if there's misappropriation of funds, or they're just not cutting it? Then absolutely, if there's misappropriation, they're going to the district attorney's office for prosecution. But if they're just not meeting what they said they were doing, they're giving their best effort, but it's just not, we would want to have the option to just say, look, you're not able to do it, we're going to just kind of end it right here. But if they're doing really well, we want to make sure they have an option to maybe go up to 3 years. And then after the 3, then they would have to reapply for however long after that. So we think we will have great interest from the community, from a lot of these agencies that have already been funded, especially if they're looking to hire maybe like a peer support or somebody. They want to have a little bit more confidence in that hiring, since it is right now just 1. So if you're agreeable as a board, we would like to do that in the RFP we post later this month.
I'll make a motion that we allow staff to pursue the 3-year
Based on performance.
based on their performance.
Okay, we've got a motion second. Do we have any other discussion?
I want to just be clear that, for an example, if there's one of these organizations that are being funded $50,000, that is recurring during that 3-year period, and that's not just a one-time.
Right. The idea, and speaking with Ms. Jones and Mr. Keller with EMS, who have been our emergency services, that have been our opioid coordinator, we probably recommend having a maximum 50 per year, which seems to be pretty consistent statewide.
With internal departments such as EMS, Sheriff's Department, DSS, will that be specified in the budget recommendation?
Yes, we, to that point, we would want to make sure our internal agencies have essentially kind of first shot, and so we've talked about having essentially set aside, I mean, it still needs to be a program that would meet all the criteria of the MOA, but have spoken, again, we're doing some funding right now with EMS, have conversations with the sheriff about doing some programs within his office, and then I've had a little bit of conversation with Ms. Brewer about some possibilities with DSS, but she's still kind of getting her feet under her, but I want to make sure she's at least given an opportunity to do something creative there.
All right, any others? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Wooten.
Thank you.
Next be the new county policy proposal. Mr. Wooten.
Yes, sir. These are 2 very different policies that were just kind of honestly lumped together for your review tonight as a first reading. The first item was brought to me by, I believe, Ms. Anya Frey, our tax collector, in anticipation of the possible shortage of the 1-cent coin or the penny. As we all understand by following the news, the 1-cent coin is no longer being minted. I believe it was costing 4 cents to make 1 penny, and so that's not a good use of our money, of course. And so, I 3 or 4 months ago when that was announced, there were some questions, from retailers and others, well, what happens, if everyone just hoards them or they get lost under couch cushions or whatever. if they're not being made anymore. And so the School of Government, I did include a memo in your packet about, maybe some guidance for counties, maybe what you could do in anticipation of that. And so, in speaking with Ms. Bell, our finance director, as well as Ms. Anya Frey, we just want to be prepared in case somebody, were to present non-exact in-person payment to us in the form of cash, where we might not have pennies. It seems perhaps, I don't want to say impossible, but we have had some discussion with our financial institution that they might be hard to come by. And so we just want to be prepared, if the situation arises. And so there is a draft policy for your review, and you want to think about it over the next month. Essentially, this is primarily based around property taxes. You're not able to, unless you vote, and there's a good valid reason for it, you're not able to discount taxes, the payment of taxes outside of the discount period. That is for July, August. And so even a penny, by law, you're unable to discount it. And so we can't round a tax payment downward. If it was, I gave an example of like 8 cents, we couldn't round it downward to a nickel. We'd have to round it up based on the non-discounting law. And so the way the policy is written, if somebody brought in, I think I gave an example, if they brought in, I said $19.80, or if it's $20, let's imagine it's a $19.78 tax bill, which we probably have some around that. And they brought in a $20 bill, we would probably, under this policy, round it up to $19.80, just so it's, round up to the nearest nickel.
And that would be a maximum of 4 cents, could be up to 4
Right.
cents, depending. So if it's a 1976, it would be 4 cents
Right.
more so.
So something to, I'm not asking for action tonight. Our typical practice is a first reading, and we'll bring it back next month.
Okay.
Any changes you might want to bring at that time.
I don't know what they're gonna do when they start looking at the nickel. It costs 13 cents to make a nickel.
That might be next month. I don't know. The other, is it okay just to move on, Mr.?
Yes, just move on
Since
down.
it's a first reading, yes, sir. The other policy, as long as I've been a county employee, which is about 22 years or so, I think a long time before that, boards had recognized through very small, I should have brought an example, service pins. We used, and if I may, Mr. Ellis actually has a prop here. It's a very small little pin, like a lapel pin. Very small token of someone's time, and after working 5 years, you would receive a pin, and then every 5 after that. So we do not have a policy governing that. Several years ago, there was some guidance received from the board that would allow for essentially a cash equivalent for whatever it might be, for 5 or 10 or whatever your pin. Again, no policy was adopted at that time. So we're asking for a policy now. And so a draft has been presented to you for, again, consideration. That pin is very important to some people. Some people, they could really care less, but for especially somebody that's worked 15, 20 more years, it means something. I've seen some people in their office, they have them displayed, and so some people might go quickly in a drawer. So it really just depends on the person and the employee. But so again, it's a draft policy for you to look at. Not asking for action tonight unless you wanted to do so.
And that leaves the choice with the employee.
Yes, sir. And they have to, elect whatever the preference is and let the finance director know.
One question, Mr. Wood. So we talked about it prior tonight. an employee who works 29 years and whatever, they have sick time they've accrued, and they want to get, they're almost to their 30 years, and we'll allow them to go ahead and retire out, use their sick time to retire, correct, right now?
Right, the retirement system allows that.
Yeah, and so, say if, and this is a true example, an employee worked almost 30 years and had sick time built up, I think, 3 months, and so she retired, and this happened sometime back and just resurfaced again. The employee, former employee, wanted to know about, could she get a PIN if she had used that sick time to equal the 30-year period, that would have been 30 full years of employment by using 3 months worth of her sick time, which she was entitled to, and the state honors that. So I do think that I didn't see that in there, and this is the first reading, I understand. So I would like to see some language that would address that, either up or down. That way an employee will know, hey, look, I can't use sick time, and if I want that 30-year PIN or a 25-year PIN, I'm going to just keep working until that day. Or, hey, I can't use that sick time and to complete it, and that would be whatever the number of years they want to do. So that way it will be easy for our staff, and staff's not having to be operating in a gray area. That way personnel, HR can say, here it is in black and white. So I think we need to address that and in the document.
Currently, we have what's called longevity pay, and like most cities and counties do, if you, pretty much the same scenario, 5, 10, et cetera, years. That one is written pretty much the same, like you have to have been here, and you could take sick leave and different things, of course, in the midst, but to get that 10th year, you have to be working that day or whatever, and so it's the same situation there. To hit 30 years, like you got to be coming to work and whatever else. So it could go. So this policy could go in that direction with the longevity, where it's physical working and you're there and you're sitting in the seat and all that, or the retirement system where they allow you to use the leave, the sick leave, like you talk about, to get to the retirement date. So,
However, yeah, I would like to
One
see
or
a
the other.
recommendation either way. That way you've got the longevity, and you're saying it could be sort of morphed in together somehow.
the practice has been, again, it's not a policy, but the practice has been like you have to be at the seat through that date, and then you.
But I think we need a policy, though. I want to codify that in the policy, either way, up or down.
I agree.
It's the way it's written now. It's not entirely clear, and it doesn't say you have to be sitting in that seat that day, but the employee must be actively employed at the anniversary date, and so that could be worded a little bit stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like it next month, to say, well, we prefer more like the retirement system. Policies are made to be
Well,
modified.
if I was good enough to work 29 and a half years and had earned that sick time, that's time that I was here working, earning that time that you said I could have.
Approved it.
Like I said, policies are made to be.
And two,
Modified.
almost a 30-year employee who just wants her PIN. I mean, I think that's sort of, and the employee evidently was a good employee. I do want to revisit that particular instance too next month.
Okay, I'll bring back this for the second reading
Thank you.
next month.
Okay, let's move on to item C, Commissioners Meeting Video Recording Policy. Mr. Wooten?
Yes, sir. So, speaking of policies, trying to start off the new year with new things, I guess. So, like I said, I've been here since 2003, and I think our meetings, they started to record them maybe 98 or somewhere in that on an old Super VHS tape recorder, and so we've come quite a ways, but we do not appear to have a policy that just kind of lays out to the public of, this is bless you, the video itself is a public record. We post it on YouTube and it's all that sort of thing, but it is a public record. It is requestable, much like a public record. And so this policy proposal just kind of lays out that information about the reality of what we've been doing for 25 years. What we do recommend as a change, though, is that what would typically be the third Monday meeting, this month is the fourth Monday because of the holiday. We've honestly not recorded that meeting. Just, I don't know why. It's just one of those things. But we would like to start recording that meeting. And the way the policy is written, so every regular meeting will be recorded by default. And then special meetings that happen, call meetings, et cetera, would be recorded. It says the manager's discretion, but I would lean more towards if there's anticipated action that we recorded.
They should be recorded.
I make a motion to approve the recommendation by staff and amend the policy to record the meeting you're requesting.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's move along now to item D, the ordinance codification proposal. Mr. Wooten.
Yes, sir. Another item that Ms. Robinson and I have spoken about, and honestly going back several clerks, is a process that many counties around our size and definitely larger have undertaken to take our county ordinances and codify them into a document that is easier for the public and staff and law enforcement, more importantly, to digest. And so, again, going back, I think to Ms. Mitchell, she and I started looking at different proposals. We do have one in your packet with, it's now part of Civic Plus, but essentially Municode, been around a long time. And what would happen if you authorize it, all our ordinances that are that have been adopted that are essentially enforceable would be provided to this company. They have a contract attorney that would work with our staff and our attorney to make sure everything is up to date. All the statute references are correct and everything, and they would be put together into one more digestible document. City of Marion has a document that I shared, or didn't share theirs, of Sherbrooke counties, but City of Marion has one as well. So we would recommend authorizing this. It would take, I think, maybe 18 months is the time frame they told us.
And the money has already been set aside.
Yes, sir, and we budgeted funding to start off.
Move that we approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item E, the Commissioner Committee appointments. Mr. Wooten.
Yes, sir. One item is coming from the City of Marion. You might have read that that Mayor Little has set up a task force for homelessness. This isn't that, but Mr. Ayers is also initiating a different set of individuals. I think more from the agency perspective. To look at the homelessness issue in around Marion and the broader environs. And so he has reached out to ask that the county manager and one of you all participate in these discussions. So I'm asking for a volunteer. I don't know how frequent, when he was going to plan to have the meetings as of yet, but take a volunteer.
Any volunteers?
I have no idea what time of day it is.
I would think probably during the workday and probably in the mornings, is my guess.
I'll do it if no one else wants to.
Make a motion that Commissioner Garner is appointed to that board.
Second.
Any other? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Gardner. Next on the agenda is the fiscal year 2026 budget update and approvals. Mr. Wooten.
Yes, sir. You have your property tax and sales tax information, and then you have budget amendment. You have a project closeout for the school projects, and then budget amendments GF 19 through 31, and then Enterprise 2 as for approval.
Move we approve the, as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The 2027 budget planning, Mr. Wooten.
We're starting to crest the hill or go up the hill or whatever as far as looking for the FY27 budget, which again, our budget year ends June 30 and the new one starts, meaning fiscal year 27 starts July 1st. I do have the draft budget preparation calendar attached showing the next few months, what that would look like. Again, mostly staff oriented for Ms. Bell and I. Well, that's why we're here. I'm the budget officer and she's the finance director, and we do the heavy lifting on meeting, especially with the internal departments. But I did, as we're putting this together on our staff calendars, I did want to, of course, ask if you had any interest and desires to have any deviation from this calendar, or if you would like to have any special topic workshops anytime during this budget calendar year. So if something you want to think about, we have time, of course, still a little bit early. If you think of something and you would like to have it scheduled when it works for you, we can certainly do that. We're at your disposal. I don't necessarily need action tonight if you want to think about it.
Okay. Want to move along then? Okay, let's go to item H, the transportation project update. Mr. Wooten, lead off on that.
Yes, sir. I was asked to provide just a quick hit on some transportation projects and maybe leading up to some potential action, I believe. The specific question was around 226 South between the railroad overpass and essentially the college, that stretch. That can be, there's 3 lanes there at the best and 2 at its worst. And traffic can be backed up maybe all the way at the bypass intersection at times. I did speak with the district engineer, Mill, last week, specific to this question for any updates on improvements. He did mention that there had been a low-hanging fruit type situation to improve the traffic light timing. So especially the lights facing 226, they would cycle green faster. But again, you have traffic coming off the interstate, you have to move them off the ramps as well. So there is a planning project on the schedule, and I just honestly went through and highlighted everything for McDowell. But
How far down the TIP is that?
the let date is it's the last item, excuse me, and that would be 2033. So that's obviously 7 years out. The problem with that and anything else on this list that's construction oriented is costs have outpaced the revenues that are available to DOT. Forgetting about Helene repairs for a second, which is hard to do. Before that, DOT was telling us they did not have enough money statewide to do all the projects that are on the STIP, traffic improvement plan, transportation improvement plan. And so we've been battling that even before Helene, like 221 widening. Again, I've talked a lot about my career. I've been here over 20 years. One of the first meetings I went to was a project to talk about widening 221 south of South Carolina. They are doing some work in Rutherford County, but anything in our county is probably another 10 or 15 years out.
I heard 2035.
It sounds about right. So as far as the the project there, I think it was Mr. Walker, I know it was, that asked about this project in particular. It would be I mean, again, best case scenario 2033. There's a project to widen, more of an active project to widen Rutherford Road, essentially from Countryside Barbecue up to the cemetery. That is in right-of-way acquisition right now, but that's probably been pushed out, 3 or 4 years just because of money. They don't have it, and so they're.
So on the list, this is the order. As we see this list, this is the order they're going to handle the projects in. Then
That's right. Chronologically, yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else on that?
No, sir.
All right, let's move along. The administrative items for review and approval, Mr. Wooten.
Yes, sir. The first item is a senior center building lease. You directed that staff find tenants for the lower level of that building. One side has been occupied for 4 or 5 months now, and that same tenant, it's called New Beginnings Alliance LLC, inquired right before Christmas about renting the other half, and so I do have a lease presented to you. It's the same lease rate that they're paying next door, which for the record is $5,500 a month, and that's what we were charging essentially before when it was private.
I make a motion we go ahead and approve the leases presented.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was our purpose from the beginning on that.
So we finally got there, it just took a while. We have EMS write-offs, NEBO leak waivers, and then the last item is a faxing fee waiver from our library director for folks that are working on Helene recovery
Move
applications.
that we approve the administrative items.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wooten. Let's go to the property tax releases, refunds, and discoveries.
I have your typical releases, refunds, and discoveries presented to you by our tax assessing and collections.
Make a motion we approve as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Wooten. And then, looking ahead to 2026.
Yes, sir. Mr. Conley, he reached out before Christmas and asked for some comments on, instead of looking back to 2025 and the good things that might have happened during the year, to look ahead. And so just thought I would, this is the list I provided Mr. Conley. This is a really nice article for the county activities as well as other agencies. So I won't read all of them. There's a lot here, but just talked about Hurricane Helene recovery. We're very fortunate we have so many partners that are helping and leading really in the housing recovery with our VOAD group Mr. Keller's talked a lot about. So we'll continue to partner with them. We're talking with some of our partner agencies like Gateway Wellness about some housing construction projects, trying to set up a meeting with them and city manager within the next week or so. We've got a contract finally signed for our park restoration. So Mr. Kazee had to leave, but I think he probably would want to pull out his hair for all the effort that has taken. Education, right before Christmas, again, we found out about the grant for the new elementary school. There will be some public planning meetings for that this year. Great partnership opportunity with the school system there. And then there's more to do down the future, so there's some planning to happen with them. Community economic development, catty corner from us right now, the hotel that has been proposed should start construction early this year from indications from those developers. So that'd be something to look forward to. There's a second industrial warehouse site that is being graded near the Universal building. We're doing, that's paused right now to move some utilities, but that should be wrapped up in about a month and a half. Got Gibbons Estates on here. This is, again, another great project happening on the east side of Marion for affordable senior apartments for lower income seniors that will rejuvenate that textile plant that is vacant right now. And I plan to have them come back, if that's all right, to give an update on that project. Just to kind of talk about, who they plan to serve, and again, when people hear Givens Estates, they think high end, and this is, affordable. This is for folks that are, low to moderate income. It's not what you might think up in Asheville, but still high quality. Infrastructure, we talked a lot about water earlier, talked about broadband a lot last month, and then wrap up with county facility improvements. We've talked about 911 center, animal shelter, have hopes for having some plans for DSS building cemented this year, perhaps hopefully in partnership with the school system. So a lot going on, and again, appreciate the opportunity to talk about this year.
Do you have any kind of update on the animal shelters that you could give us today?
Where we left it last was we are with looking at a combination funding and perhaps combination site on Spalding Road for the 911 center using CDBG funds. We have a meeting tomorrow morning to reiterate that point with our grant writers.
Okay.
And the plan B is to look at other funding options, but we're trying for the Helene-related funding first, as many
Okay.
projects as possible.
Thank you. Citizen comments.
Yes, we have 2 signed up tonight.
Is there anything else? Do I hear a motion we adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Nah.
We are adjourned.